Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Council held in public. It is not a public meeting. There is no fire drill planned, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the exit nearest the large screen at the front of the room and proceed down the fire exit to the courtyard. Once it is safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will also advise when it is safe to return to the meeting. We are recording the meeting this evening using our webcasting system. The webcast will be transmitted live and will also be available on the Council's website following the meeting. All mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so that the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. And also as the kind of the second welcome introductory, as this is of course the very first meeting of the Basildon Area Committee. The establishment of the area committees was announced at annual council on the 23rd of May 2024, and the role of the area committees is to ensure the delivery of services to support residents and communities to maximise community resilience at an area level. I think I'd like to thank Councillor Ferguson as the Cabinet Member for Culture, Sport and Communities, as well as the Council's leadership more widely, for all their hard work and vision to form the area committees. The area committees have created a fantastic vehicle to invest in our communities and support the fantastic work of local groups who are so important to the social fabric of our borough. I also believe Jenny Scribb and Grant Taylor, two of our fantastic officers, deserve a lot of recognition for their tireless work behind the scenes over the last few months to take the area committee from not just being a fantastic concept, but being a fully functioning vehicle for positive change in our community. And I think it's only right that we recognise their hard work too. For those watching at home, each area committee is made up of all the elected members in the wards that they cover, and I'm pleased to welcome my fellow ward members from Friends and neighbouring colleagues from St Martin's ward who also sit on this committee. The area committees are responsible for the following: to identify the main priorities that reflect the biggest needs in the area, to monitor the quality and effectiveness of services delivered by the council and other main providers in the area, whilst developing strong working relationships with the key council stakeholders and partners, to develop efficient and effective solutions to local area priorities, as well as supporting borough-wide issues, to encourage residents to become involved in decision-making on matters which affect them and enhance community engagement, to consult, engage and involve local people, community organisations and partners in understanding area priorities, and to propose and sponsor investment proposals, allocating set budgets accordingly. And finally, to commission activity to improve local quality of life and public satisfaction in the area. There are two main funds that the area committee are responsible for, or is responsible for. The Believe in Basildon Fund. This fund is commissioned through an area committee for members and aims to support activity and initiatives that tackle local priorities that clearly benefit localities and the communities and the organisations within them at an area-based level. And second, the Community Priority Fund. This fund is specifically accessed through voluntary and the community sector organisations and aims to support activity or the provision of equipment that clearly benefits residents at a ward level and which address local priorities. The activity must provide genuine community benefit or address community need. And with that, we'll move to agenda item 1, which I believe is apologies for absence. We've only had one apology for absence, Councillor Callaghan. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Then moving on to agenda item 3, funding considerations. The first funding consideration on the agenda is the crunch, and I'll hand over to Grant Taylor to say a few introductory words for the item.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so the proposal for the committee this evening is whether or not they would like to make a £1,500 investment from the Believe in Basildon Fund for the investment of delivery of crunch service to be delivered within the Basildon Area Committee locality. I'm clear that all members will know, but for those watching at home today, the Crunch has been had a hugely successful summer this year. In essence, what it is it supports communities to be able to declutter household items at places really convenient to them. Obviously, we know that access to the tip is more difficult for some than others. So the Crunch service is an incredible local service taken to our residents, and this summer saw extensive use by our residents. So much so that speaking with all of the area committee chairs across all 6 areas, all of them have asked for this possibility of the Crunch being extended. So as pre-Christmas, everyone can be ready for the new stuff that's going to arrive, I'm sure. The proposal, therefore, is for the Crunch to return on the 20th of November, and that's for all of the areas. To be clear here, this cost is dependent on all of the areas agreeing to it, otherwise costs might differ somewhat. The proposal in Basildon is that the Crunch will take place in the car park to the rear of the Jolly Friar pub on that day, and clearly full comms will be going out accordingly should it be something that the committee approve. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Grant. Would any members of the committee like to speak? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, and thank you for your opening remarks as well, and thank you, Mr Taylor, for taking us through the report on the Crunch. I fully support this. I think that the Crunch was a service that's been missed by residents across the whole borough over the last few years, and when we saw the Crunch return over the summer, we saw residents being able to support one another. There was lots of community spirit. It was brilliant being able to go down to a variety of different sites where the Crunch was running across the whole summer, and see residents showing their appreciation for our council officers that provide vital refuse services, seeing the appreciation for the service being returned, and a hell of a lot of stuff being collected, being reused and repurposed. It really brought a whole community spirit back together. So I fully support the Crunch returning. Just a question for Mr Taylor. I don't know if you have any stats to hand over how the Crunch went over the summer. And if there's an opportunity just to kind of remind or to inform members of what that led to over the summer period, because I think the one over in advance of the Christmas period, I think will be absolutely vital, exactly as you said, of residents preparing for new items coming into the household over the winter period. I think it's a vital service to provide.
So I don't have the tonnage to hand, but I know it was absolutely significant. I can look that up, Councillor. I attended myself one of the days and couldn't believe the huge difference that was being made over that period. If you'll bear with me a second, I'll ensure that I've got that relevant details from colleagues.
Councillor Brown.
I think, you know, we all understand that our residents were not happy with our waste service, and over the summer we were able to ease that somewhat by enabling residents to bring whatever they had that they needed to dispose of to that Crunch service. And I think now periodically enabling residents to continue to do that is a really valuable service, because not everyone can get to Pitsy Tip. Not everyone has the transport or the means to do that. And like Councillor Ferguson said, what was really interesting over the summer, and I managed to attend each area of the Crunches, that there was friends, neighbours, family helping each other get rid of whatever they had that needed to go. And I think it's really important that we can do anything that brings people together, is really important, and that we understand the needs of our neighbours. And I would ask people that when you are going to the Crunch and you know of an elderly person or somebody who doesn't have a car at this time or doesn't have the way in which to get to the Crunch, to ask them, can I help you? I think that'd be really a valuable way of contributing at this time. I've got a quick question for you, Grant, on this. Obviously, we're going to be at the Jolly Friar. Could I ask that those businesses that use that car park be informed so that they're going to be aware of the traffic that's going to generate that day? Because obviously we don't want to impede their ability to continue functioning. I'm sure it's something that you have thought of, but I'd just like to ask that takes place. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor. I'm sure colleagues have done so. We've made a note for that. I've also managed to find the information. So an incredible 332 tonnes of waste, which is the equivalent of 30 double-decker buses, were collected in the summer. So that's why I couldn't remember it, because the numbers were so huge. I just knew it was huge, and it was larger than I remembered.
Lovely. Councillor Brown?
And we all know that that waste had to go somewhere. And at the end of the day, if it wasn't for our residents being able to bring it to the crunch, yes, some would have been able to take it to the various tips that we have around our borough, but some may not, and that could have ended up on our streets. And so by enabling our residents to do the right thing, giving them the facilities and the wherewithal to be able to do that, we're ensuring that our communities are clean, which is something that we obviously think is important. But for our sense of community, it's important that we have a borough that doesn't look like a rubbish tip. And so by doing this, that's going to really contribute to that. So, yeah, thank you. Happy to support.
Councillor Ferguson?
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Thank you, Mr Taylor, for presenting those statistics. That's an absolutely incredible amount that was collected over the summer period, and exactly as Councillor Brown has just said, that had to go somewhere. So for us being able to provide that convenient opportunity for residents, I think is really important. Also, just want to echo the remarks of Councillor Brown there that for many residents across the borough, it isn't easy being able to get to a tip. Many residents are not able to get to are not able to book a slot unless it's available over a weekend, which that can present some other difficulties in being able to get to, both in terms of time perspective but also a travel perspective. So us being able to provide that, hopefully at a convenient time, at a well-known location that's convenient for residents to be able to get to, I think is really important. And I just want to end on, first of all, thanking the refuse service and all the work of Mr Hendry's team in being able to provide the crunch. The staff that were working on those events over the summer were absolutely brilliant, and that was really picked up on and appreciated, I know, by our residents. But also want to thank our residents for the spirit and the way in which they approached the crunch service that's enabled us to bring it back in November because of their demand. Thank you.
Councillor Brown, then Councillor Yakub.
A quick question. Obviously, last time there was lots of comms that went out on the, obviously, Basildon Council's webpage, their social media, local papers advertising the fact of where the crunches were going to be. Do we have a programme of that taking place this time? Thank you.
It's planned to, of course, it's pending the decision this evening, I think. So should the committee choose to vote for it, then I know my comms colleagues are prepared either way.
Okay. Councillor Yakub.
Thank you. I think the crunch was a complete hit last time around. I think it's amazing that we're doing it again. And I think one thing that we need to remember is what was really significant about the crunch was it was one of the most positive engagement exercises this council has had with its residents for years. The kind of feedback that we were getting from people where they actually felt like they mattered to the council, that was really rewarding. And I think being there, helping them, you know, letting them know what they can and can't bring, all of that, that really helped us to connect with our residents. I think that's why this service is really, really significant. And I think we need to make sure that we have a whole promotional exercise around this, because whereas previously that crunch was running for about 4 weeks, this is going to be one crunch on one date, and we need to make sure that as many people as possible who need the service are aware of it. And also, we had on our website what is and isn't accepted. I think we need to have that a little bit more prominent on our social media channels as well, because I don't want people to come and then be disappointed because something they brought isn't accepted. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Yakub. Would any other members like to speak? Well, in that case, then we'll move to the vote. So the recommendation is that the committee agrees to a £1,500 investment from the Believe in Basildon Fund for the delivery of the crunch service in Basildon. All those in favour? Lovely, that's unanimous. So moving on to the second funding consideration item, Carols in the Park. Grant, back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, so the proposal here is for a £3,000 investment towards the Carols in the Park event in the Basildon Area Committee zone. And this is for the purchase of a lit Christmas tree to be installed within Gloucester Park for over the throughout the period of the Christmas period. Clearly, the festive period is hugely important to all of our residents, and the Christmas tree offers an opportunity for a real focal point for the whole community over that period. The officers, my colleagues, are working with a number of different schools and faith groups, etc., to be able to create an event based around this tree, and the proposals for that to happen in many places all around the borough. The Carols in the Park event, therefore, would be a focal point for Christmas for residents at this period, with that due to take place within Gloucester Park, as I mentioned, on Thursday the 12th of December, very close to Christmas. So I'll pass back over to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Would any members like to speak first? Councillor Brown.
Hi, I noted that the Pitsea group decided, rather than planting a tree, to do something more sustainable and to plant a living tree. And I wondered whether or not it is possible for our officers to offer us a similar solution. I appreciate that it's coming out of the blue tonight as opposed to being on the agenda as an amendment, an alternative to that. And presumably the funding would be similar to what you've already calculated for Pitsea, which I believe was £4,000. And I would ask members to consider something more sustainable, something that can remain there and that can be used year on year. And also it will reduce costs, because each year obviously then we just have the cost of the lighting, we wouldn't have the cost of purchasing a tree. And so I wonder whether or not that could be a consideration tonight for the members of the committee, and whether or not our officers feel that that is something that we could do. Thank you.
So for clarity, the Pitsea additional tree is not lit, though. That is purely for the tree. So if the concept was to plant that and to light it, I'm not totally clear on what those costs would be, because I'm not quite clear on the differentials. But yeah, so it's not quite like for like, Councillor.
So, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to come in on the back of what Councillor Brown was saying, I thought it was a very positive meeting that was held in the Pitsea Area Committee, and the first meeting that was held last week. I think as an opportunity to kind of take that away, as I do agree, I think it would be good to leave a kind of permanent and more sustainable solution if that's possible. I think what we could potentially do this evening is put forward a recommendation to support the investment, pending options of a sustainable tree being placed to be agreed between officers and the chairman of the committee to enable that work to take place. Being able to take advantage of the recommendations and the kind of views of the committee, but not necessarily hindering this event specifically on that, if that isn't possible within kind of the amounts that we're putting forward, but enabling that to be the first preference that comes forward this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I agree with the points both yourself and Councillor Brown have made, actually, as potentially kind of an enhanced, or probably a more preferable consideration. I'm not sure in terms of the funding amount we'd need to allocate for that, whether it'd still be £3,000 or a bit more. Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, so the £4,000 for the work that the Parks team had done on the sustainable Christmas tree, if you want to put it in those terms, was purely for a tree, so it never had any lighting around it. So we know, I'm confident that the tree is a £4,000 investment. If we are introducing lighting to that, then I suggest an additional figure is put on top of that. The bit I'm unclear on is actually what that will be. So perhaps it might be worth sticking another £1,500 on it, but on the basis that if that's not used, it goes back into the pot. That's the only way I can think to do it, I think.
Do we have, I mean, you know this better than me, do we have delegated powers by which we can say up to a figure to be discussed between yourselves and the chair? Is that a way that we can proceed with this?
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate way to do so, on the basis that we're not bringing something completely out of the blue to the table here. This is about Christmas tree, just a different way of doing so. So yes, I think that's exactly the way to make this happen.
Sorry, Grant. And so are Pixie not lighting their tree?
So what Pitsy are doing is that they are having the lit Christmas tree coming in for this year, but then they've also planted a new tree which will grow and be suitable for Christmases as years go by. A permanent tree costs more money. So the other option, yeah. So that's how they've done it. They've done both.
So that could be an option for us to consider, is to do the proposal that's there and plant a tree ready for next year, as opposed to buying a tree that is tall enough that's going to be planted, and what that might look like.
So I'm comfortable with that on the basis that officers have looked at the exact same scenario for Pitsy. So we've had the appropriate scrutiny in another place. So it's important because I'm very aware that items that were not on the agenda, that no one had had a chance to kind of do the due diligence on, are a difficulty. But clearly we have done this exact same thing earlier this week. So in theory, I'd be comfortable with that should the committee vote for it. Pending, of course, my colleagues being able to source the tree, because we're getting near Christmas.
Yep, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just coming to the actual investment of what the event's designed to do, and first of all, want to be able to reiterate the purpose of and agree with your kind of earlier comments, to reiterate the purpose of the area committees is to be able to enable the council to respond to activities and be able to support our communities. And similar to the first item where we're talking about the crunch, it was an opportunity to bring the community together. I think we've got a similar opportunity through the Carols in the Park event to bring our community groups together through schools, community groups, sheltered housing schemes, friends, family, relatives, for an event taking place in advance of the Christmas period that we can get residents all behind, that is a thoroughly enjoyable event to be able to look forward to. And I think we have that opportunity with this event for the Carols in the Park proposal before us this evening. So I fully support that and would fully support an increased investment if we were minded to support going up to £5,500 this evening as the budget envelope for this event, with to enable the purchase of a sustainable tree, with work being done between officers and yourself, if that was if the committee was so minded.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Davies.
Thank you. I've got a question for the officer. Is the right mic? Yeah. I just wanted to ask, the Mayor's Charitable Trust, Appeal Trust involved in the, is that for every single, was that just in the Gloucester Park, or is that going to be at every Christmas tree lit in the borough?
Yeah, that's for all of them is the proposal where they've got these events. Not all of the area committees have chosen to move forward with events where they've got other Christmas festivities taking place.
Any other members like to speak? Councillor Yacoub.
I would just like to say that I think the best way to proceed on the tree is to have the original funding consideration to have a lit Christmas tree and then plant another one for next year, because I think it is important for that kind of holiday spirit to have a nice big tree. So I think that's the best way to proceed. But can you clarify if that means we need to agree up to like £5,500, or are they two different sums that we're now agreeing?
So to replicate the work that's been taking place for Pitsy, there's two items. One was the £3,000 lit tree that's been brought tonight, and they had an additional item for a £4,000 permanent tree. So that's the piece that's had the due diligence done on it, and how you would replicate that piece.
Thank you, Councillor Ansell. Mr. Chair. Mr. Taylor, just on the 4,000 tree that was proposed at Pitsy, that was my understanding is that was the tree that was also for food vendors and kind of other things around the event that was taking place.
Do you mind if I just check the Pitsy report to make sure I understand this? Because, yeah, I think you're right, actually. I apologise, you're right, I think.
Can I make a proposal? Can we tonight vote to say, yes, we're going to take the £3,000? And then what we can do is ask Grant and his team, because there's no rush to plant this tree. If this tree's not planted for a month, 2 months, that's not going to have a huge implication. And it might be that we accept this proposal, if you're all in agreement, and then ask for something to come forward for us to be able to look at and consider. Because I think at the moment tonight, trying to decide on something on the fly isn't the best way of making a good decision.
I completely agree, Councillor Brown. I think you're absolutely spot on. So yeah, very happy to kind of have for this item almost have 2 votes really. The first one on the item that's listed in the agenda, then as a second one for perhaps a future, almost a future funding item idea actually for an officer to go away, consider, and then bring an option and a report back perhaps to the next area committee meeting. But I think Mr. Taylor, are you ready?
Yeah, I can't get into the system. I think that's the way to do it. Apologies, the data and the figures are coming over from the Parks Department, so I don't have the breakdown of how that £4,000 was split up. I'm afraid I just don't. It's just not information I've got. So I think that's the sensible way to do it.
Lovely. So unless there's any other members that like to speak or speak again, we'll go to the vote. The committee. The vote is to agree to a £3,000 investment from the Believe in Basildon Fund for the purchase of a lit Christmas tree for over the festive period to enhance the Carols in the Park event in Basildon. All those in favour? Lovely. That vote is carried unanimously. And again, it's for officers to note to bring a funding consideration to the next meeting of the committee on the option, obviously costs related to the purchase of a sustainable tree to be planted and used for future years. Lovely. Following that, we'll move on to the third funding consideration on the agenda for this evening, related to pantomime tickets for older residents within the borough. Back over to you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Councillor. So the third proposal for the evening is for, as you mentioned, a £2,000 investment for the purchase of 100 free pantomime tickets to be distributed to older residents within the area committee locality from the Believe in Basildon Fund. This initiative is aimed at those residents older than 65 living within the 2 wards as mentioned. And we'll have a particular focus on residents who live alone who are financially disadvantaged. And the scheme obviously offers that opportunity to come and enjoy this important festive experience in our borough's calendar, to be able to come and enjoy the multi-award winning pantomime at the Towngate Theatre this coming Christmas. The proposal here would be that officers would work with a number of local trusted organisations to be able to identify those residents within the wards who would fit that criteria. And there are a couple of dates set aside whereby 2 different options where residents will be able to take up this offer. The Panto is hugely successful and tickets are running out fast. Please buy. I'm going to give that promotion to our theatre and to that important cultural hub in our town centre. But this obviously is another fantastic possible opportunity for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I think if I could come in first, needless to say, loneliness amongst our older residents and The elderly during Christmas is a very serious issue, and I think this is a proposal that has merit and will help to, show that this borough or that the council and the administration is doing its bit to help keep our pensioners warm at Christmas. And I believe with this proposal, we're doing our bit to help tackle loneliness amongst elderly residents at Christmas time as well. Grant, I'm aware that we've already had quite a lot of interest from our sheltered accommodation schemes in taking part in this scheme and taking up the offer of the free tickets as well. And it's my understanding that again, these tickets aren't for resale either, so they're offered to our pensioners and for our pensioners to use alone. Happy to bring you back in to say a bit more.
No, that's absolutely the case. So we will be working very, very closely with a number of different, partners, and that early work has taken place just to understand the possibilities around it. So yes, we're very clear that with those local trusted partners, they will be identifying those residents, and we'll be clearly we will be have a clear understanding who the tickets have been given to. So there is no fears from that end at all. We're quite confident and that we'll be able to ensure that they don't find themselves into the wrong hands. I don't think the members need to worry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Would any members like to speak? Councillor Davies.
Thank you. Just for clarity, I just wanted to ask, will this be for one performance that all 100 are invited to, or would it be sort of interspersed amongst more general age range performances?
So I'm pleased to say in many ways finding 100 tickets is not easy on a show, because it's hugely popular with our communities every year, as you know. So what we've managed to do is find 2 performances, and we've got 50 tickets for each. So one option is Friday the 29th of November at the 6 p.m. show, and the other option is the Thursday the 12th of December at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Would any other members like to speak? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Taylor, for the work that you've undertaken in advance of this meeting, and Jenny for all your work in advance of this meeting and actually trying to find 100 tickets, as you've just said, at the theatre. I'm a big fan of going to the pantomime, and I'm looking forward to taking my 3-year-old niece for the first time, having bought my tickets for the pantomime in advance. So the sales pitch has been fully noted. As a St Martin's councillor, it's great that we've got the Soundgate Theatre within the ward, and being able to create opportunities for our residents to take part in cultural activities within our wards, I think, is really, really important. And I think this is a good opportunity to be able to bring community groups together at Christmas, and just echoing your remarks that social isolation is a challenge, and we need to do what we can as a council to make sure that we're promoting and creating opportunities to address that challenge. So I fully support this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Any other members wish to speak? In that case, we will move to a vote on the proposal. So members are asked to vote that the committee agrees to a £2,000 investment for 100 free pantomime tickets for older residents from the Believe in Basildon Fund. All those in favour? Lovely. That's carried and approved unanimously. Moving on to the fourth funding consideration and for funding item for the night regarding La Danse Fantastique. Mr. Taylor, back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so the fourth proposal for this evening is for a £3,680 funding award to La Danse Fantastique from the Basildon Community Fund. I'm aware, Councillor, that you are the proposal sponsor for this. So La Danse Fantastique are an incredibly successful and important long-running community organisation in our borough, offering outstanding opportunities for our communities through the power of dance and physical activity, often traditionally working with young people certain difficulties and often who wouldn't have the opportunity to participate in performing arts. The team there are absolutely outstanding in being able to provide that fantastic opportunity and really driving the learning through the appropriate dance stages, and have produced outstanding performers that have gone on to do some really wonderful things both in Basildon and further afield. And I'm really pleased to say that their offer enables those young people opportunities in the performing arts world well beyond our borough and that huge exposure. This project that they're looking for here is even further expansion into their work. And I think that's just testament to the work that the team do in relation to thinking how they can use the power of movement and the power of dance and the power of the performing arts to be able to tackle some of those wicked issues that communities face. So tonight, what La Danse Fantastique are looking for support for is for working with local residents who are living with Parkinson's disease. And the idea is that this would help them to be participate in weekly activity for about 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours a week, really importantly. The funding is provided to support with kind of adult ballet classes for people with Parkinson's, as I mentioned, but the real important things for this, or one of the real important things, is the role that the ballet and the teaching of ballet can do in relation to enhancing strength and balance for people. And as we all know, that falls is a considerable difficulty for people. So if we can improve the strength and balance through a fun, engaging activity for those residents, it has huge implications for our health partners and for ourselves. The proposal, the full costs for this work are £4,420, but it's testament to La Danse Fantastique that they're not seeking full funding from us this evening. They've asked for, as I mentioned earlier, £3,680, and so this is a contribution towards the teaching, the printing, the venue hire costs, for them to be able to do so. And I think what's also been really important is we're already in conversations with them around what their sustainability angles are, and I think they're really keen to be able to prove the difference it makes, and therefore and we will continue to work with them in relation to our health partners and our relationship with Sport England and the like, for how, you know, if this proves to be as successful as we hope it will be, how we can normalise such work. I should also mention, there is a Parkinson's nurse that's volunteered their time to be able to support with this work. So again, it's a real great showcase of the Basildon community coming together to support those who need it, but through fun, engaging activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. That was a brilliant overview there, actually. And I had the pleasure to visit La Danse Fantastique recently to see all of the good work that they do and how they create opportunity for all sections of the community with their inclusive ethos. And again, I think it's another brilliant example of the fantastic outreach and liaison work that our officers do behind the scenes, which I believe really does deserve a lot of recognition. So during my visit, I believe it was last week, I heard the testimonies from the students and their parents about how La Danse Fantastique has allowed young people to overcome neurodivergent challenges, to support their mental health and give them the tools that they need to play a positive and active role in our society. One parent in particular told me that her child's journey has afforded him many opportunities, not just in the performing arts, but in believing and making friendships. And this one particular pupil from La Danse Fantastique has grown in tremendous confidence, has gone on to receive the Pride of Essex award. And speaking as someone who has two left feet, I was too sheepish to get involved myself, but I saw how this group helps hundreds of people in our borough of different ages and abilities. And I think, to echo the words of Mr. Taylor, I think this group is a real success story right here in Basildon. The group has put on performances at the Albert Hall, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and of course right here in Basildon at our very own Towngate Theatre. The teachers that make La Danse Fantastique and all of its work possible are really, really well trained and experienced. They're ISTD and Lambda trained, and their students have gone on to win scholarships at very, very impressive institutions like the Birmingham Conservatoire for Drama and the Liverpool Performing Arts College as well. And I think, yeah, just to reiterate again, as the proposer or the sponsor for this funding item, I think this will allow the group to work. The group will be working in partnership with NHS. I think this is almost a real trailblazing piece of work that's taking part right here in Basildon, and proud to say in the good ward of Friends within the borough. And it's something that's in response to a need. So the NHS apparently, well, I understand, has a caseload of 230 patients with Parkinson's across Basildon and Wickford, and there's been a further identified 724 people in the early stages of Parkinson's across the borough and Brentwood and Thurrock as well. And I think this funding, if I'm right, is open to carers as well. So we'll support carers as well to help maintain their mental health. And again, just to reiterate, I think what the officer has introduced, I think is incredibly important, and again really shows that we're trailblazing here in Basildon, how worthy this consideration is for the funding. That this activity will support the NHS in its research into treatment for Parkinson's, and I think as we've heard, there's already evidence to suggest that this form of therapy through dance can help keep people active, help enhance the quality of life of people, and help people manage the symptoms of Parkinson's. So with that, are there any members that would like to speak? Councillor Yacoub first.
Thank you, and thank you for proposing this. I think when I looked at this, the first thing I thought was this is exactly the kind of initiative that we were thinking about when we set up the area committees and thought about having a very kind of specific understanding of our ward needs and being able to meet them. The statistic that was quite striking was that in the report it shows that in the Basildon Borough we have 800 clients with Parkinson's, and 150 of these are between the ages of 18 to 30. I thought that was quite striking. I think this is a really wonderful initiative, especially because exercise plays such a key role in managing Parkinson's symptoms, but also it just gives you confidence. Something like dance gives you confidence to be able to think, you know what, there is stuff that I can do. I have faith and confidence in my ability, and I think it's really nice that there is this therapeutic space out there for adults and young people. And I think the social element of it around like the coffee shop and stuff, that is really positive as well. So really pleased to be supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Yacoub. Really, really well put. Anyone else? Any members like to speak? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just to echo Councillor Yacoub's comments, thank you for bringing this proposal before us this evening. When I was privileged to take on my cabinet role in following the AGM this year, the very first visit that I undertook in the community, slightly delayed due to the general election, but the very first visit that I took on in the community was to La Danse Fantastique, and I want to thank Mr. Taylor and Jenny for organising the visits over there, because just walking into the waiting room while I was there, I was blown away with the level of support, the activities that are delivered, and the passion and dedication of all the staff that run activities there. And I was able to speak to staff, participants, parents, all at the same time, and just all couldn't compliment the level of support that they're provided through La Danse Fantastique enough. And I think it really speaks volumes of how long they've been running across the borough, and the dedication of the staff that have been supporting our community groups for a long period of time. And I want to make my thanks to those staff this evening. I also want to echo your comments around the real need that this service will be able to provide. Through my work, I've been able to see the importance of making accessible physical activity for individuals that have Parkinson's, and the importance of that in promoting well-being, both physical and mental well-being at the same time. And I think this proposal addresses that. Two things that I would just like to kind of point out, in addition to being able to support the funding, which I absolutely will do tonight because I think it's really, really important. I know our officers will do this, and I know Jenny does this on a daily basis, but looking at the sustainability of the programme and being able to do all we can following the initial pilot to look at other opportunities for the programme to be sustainable and to work in partnership with the Dance Fantastic to do that, but also want to be able to look at how we can work and use the communications vehicle of us as a council to continue to really promote the work of La Dance Fantastique, because I think they're such a vital and valuable organisation across the borough, and as well as giving funding, we should also be able to grant extra exposure and additional exposure to the organisation, and I'd like that to go forward with the recommendations tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I think you raised two really important points there on the comms and the sustainability as well. So would any other members like to speak? If not, we will go to the vote on the proposal. So that is that the committee agrees to a £3,680 funding award to La Dance Fantastique from the Basildon Community Priority Fund. All those in favour? And that is approved unanimously. Moving on to the fifth and final funding consideration for the meeting this evening. Back over to you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. So the fifth and final is the proposal for a £4,500 funding award to the Basildon Community Association from the Basildon Community Priority Fund, and the proposal sponsor here is Councillor Brown. So the proposal here is to support. So Basildon Community Association are the operating body and organisation that runs the Friends Community Centre, which provides a community hub space for the whole community and has done for many years in the Friends area. The funding would make a huge difference to them, I understand, in being able to refurbish the kitchen in the community centre, being used to purchase smart vent system, new cupboards and worktops for maintenance, and also to fix a leak. This opportunity, should you choose to fund it, will therefore enable them to make these important improvements to the kitchen, which unfortunately at the moment they are unable to use. So that is limiting the way in which the centre is able to operate. It's limiting its ability to be able to support local communities and the initiatives that they're doing in that space. And of course, as a community association, the money it makes gets reinvested back into the association to keep doing more and more good things in that community. But without access to a kitchen, that's limiting their ability for their business modelling to provide positive opportunities for local communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Councillor Brown, as the proposer for this funding consideration, would you like to speak first?
Yeah, I'd just like to start by saying thank you to Jenny. I decided that I wanted to know more about the different community groups and ways in which we could help, and Jenny has been quite kindly facilitating that and taking me around several groups, and I thank all of those groups who I've already met and those I'm about to meet. This was one such visit that I had with Jenny to meet some of the volunteers that help run the playgroup out of there, but also are integral into all the activities that take place at the community centre. And what was striking is it's a really tired building. It's not one of ours, it's Essex County Council building from which they lease, and they are responsible for a lot of the maintenance, as most leases are. And they've not received any real support from Essex County Council in doing this. And so once again, it's for us to step in and be able to say this is a key asset for our community. We do not want to lose it. And we want to ensure that all the activities that those volunteers who run this group have identified. Previously, they've had run holiday clubs there, which included providing those children that came into that programme with food. They're not able to do that at the moment. The preschool that is in there at the moment, all the children are bringing packed lunches because they cannot provide food there. It's also limiting the sustainability of that centre, in that if they are renting it out for parties, anniversaries, barn dances, often those types of activities would require kitchen facilities. And the kitchen facilities at the moment, not only are they inadequate, but they are unsafe. They do not meet present fire standards, and so they cannot use it. So by doing this, not only are we enabling the playgroup to have food and the students that use it during the summer, but we're enabling this facility to be more sustainable, to be able to fund themselves for all the future activities. And they do lots of things there, not just a playgroup, there's activities for our older residents. There's fitness activities, there's a judo club. There's a whole array of things that different members of our community across our wards access that at the moment are being limited by this. And so I would ask each of you to support this. Don't think of it as fixing a kitchen. It's enabling a community centre to be sustainable and to continue all that fantastic work that those amazing volunteers do every day for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Would any other members wish to speak? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to thank Councillor Brown for bringing this report before us this evening, and I think this really is to the core of what the area committees are about, is enabling councillors to go out into their wards, speak to residents, speak to community groups, whether in opposition or administration, and being able to bring forward proposals that really meet the demands of our residents. The Friends Community Centre provides such vital services for residents, for youth engagement activities taking place during school holiday periods, for after school clubs that are taking place. And without being able to fix the building, these activities aren't able to take place and then have a detrimental impact on our residents. As many of us will have walked over here this evening and seen how dark it gets, how early on. Now we can't naturally fix this by tomorrow, but when this is in place for going through future winter periods, enabling a fully running community centre to deliver vital activities in evenings and weekends and school holiday periods when it is dark is valuable and enables good quality youth work to be able to take place that can make a real impact to residents' lives across the borough. So I fully support this, and I fully support the opportunity that the area committees have enabled for this proposal to come before us this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I want to reiterate the points that yourself and Councillor Brown have made. I think you're absolutely spot on. It's exactly what the area committee is all about, and I think we're showing if County Hall in Chelmsford's not going to do it, we're very ready and willing to step in and deliver positive change and support our residents and our community. Certainly, if County Hall is not, and I think you're absolutely right. Councillor Brown is bang on that. The Friends Community Centre is part of the cultural fabric of our community. It's the gathering place and the heart of the area where people meet, get together. And ultimately, what's on the table here is feeding children throughout the year. And I think, sustainability, when you look at funding, particularly use of taxpayers' money, sustainability is incredibly important in getting value for money. And as Councillor Brown rightly said, that this will allow this will help to ensure the future sustainability of that building, of that centre, in allowing them to put on extra services, support extra people, and of course, have people use the facilities. In the first place. So I think this is the perfect example of what the area committee was set up to do, and another example of where Basildon Council is acting proactively to help people in the borough and do some good. So with that, if there's no other members that wish to speak, we will go to the vote. Lovely. So members of the committee are asked to agree a £4,500 funding award to the Friends Community Centre from the Basildon Community Priority Fund. All those in favour? Lovely. And that vote is approved unanimously. And with that, that's the fifth and final funding item considered for the evening. There are no further items on the agenda, so I'll bring the meeting to a close and wish everyone a safe journey home. Thank you.